This week, a 23rd lawsuit was filed against Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson. And in footnote 2 at the bottom of page 2, there was a comment that struck me when I saw it. And I follow this case, I think, as closely as anyone out there. And when I read that line, I thought, wait a minute, this is not as obvious as Tony Buzbee, the lawyer for the plaintiff, would think. And here is the language from the footnote. Of course, we now know that Deshaun Watson offered each plaintiff $100,000 to settle their cases, but not all would accept that amount due to the aggressive non-disclosure agreement that Watson's team proposed. That was the language that made me say, am I missing something here? Do I just forget this? Is this, of course we now know. We don't know. We'd never seen that. It had never been reported, and I went and checked last night. The only thing that had ever been reported, the Daily Beast reported that one of the 22 plaintiffs at one point was offered $100,000. That is different from saying they all were offered $100,000 with an aggressive non-disclosure agreement that some of them decided not to sign. And that is a complete 180 from earlier in the year, 2021, when it was Tony Buzbee, who represents the 22 plaintiffs, who wanted the non-disclosure agreement, and Rusty Hardin, who represents Deshaun Watson, saying it all needs to be public. Because Buzbee, as Hardin has said, didn't want people to know how little his clients got. Well, as it turns out, and this all happened in the context of the trade that didn't happen to Miami. The Dolphins wanted the cases settled. He was going to pay each of them $100,000. 18 were ready to go. 4 of them said no. And I don't know whether it was the NDA or the amount. And at the end of the day, Watson decided he wasn't going to settle some if he couldn't settle all, although in hindsight, settling any, hindsight, foresight, any site, current site, settle these cases if you can. But this NDA, and Watson's camp would say, well, Deshaun didn't want the NDA, the Dolphins did. Well, the Dolphins aren't parties to this lawsuit. They don't come to the table and say to Tony Buzbee, we want your clients to sign an NDA. They say to Deshaun Watson, if we are going to trade for you, you have to get these cases settled with an NDA. And Watson says, okay, I'll do it. So even if it wasn't Watson's idea, if he's doing it to facilitate a trade to the Dolphins, he's the one who's asking for it. His team asked for the NDA. They call it aggressive. And look, every NDA is aggressive. The idea is you can't talk to anybody. You can't tell anybody what you got. I've been the lawyer on both sides of the NDA. All you can say is the matter has been resolved. You can't talk about the amount. You can't even say it's been settled with a cash payment. All you say is it's been resolved, period. So it didn't work. It didn't get it done. But that was news. That was one of those, I think Tony Buzbee knew damn well what he was doing, dropping that little bomb in the footnote for the purposes of someone in the media catching it and writing about it. But that's the bottom line. And different people are going to interpret different things based upon the fact that Watson was willing to pay $100,000 to each of these 22 individuals. And there's going to be a lot of people who look at that and say, why would he have offered $100,000 if he didn't do something he shouldn't have done? But that's not a reliable conclusion. I won't support that logic. Sometimes it makes good business sense to purchase peace, treat it as a transaction in order to get past this and move forward. He wanted to play last year for the Dolphins, so this was part of the price to pay to go play for the Dolphins.
Mike, when Deshaun Watson signed this guaranteed contract, 5 years, $230 million with the Cleveland Browns, I basically said at the time, and I continue to say it, I think it is one of the worst transactions I've ever seen an NFL owner make. And it isn't that Deshaun Watson as a football player isn't worth $230 million over a 5-year period. There's very little to do with it. It is signing a player who has 22 swords of Damocles hanging over his head. And this week, that became a 23rd sword of Damocles hanging over his head, because obviously now another woman has joined the parade of civil lawsuits against Deshaun Watson with, I would say, some harrowing accusations about sexual misconduct by Deshaun Watson. And And I said at the time, and this, I wrote a damning story at the top of my column when the Browns did this. I thought it was an absolute, total disgrace. And I continue to think so. But what I said at the time is that this is basically going to be the distraction that keeps on distracting. And what has happened now over the last couple of weeks with Deshaun Watson? I'll tell you what has happened. HBO on Real Sports has two women who come out and talk about their very negative experiences with Watson as professional massage therapists. Then this week, there's even more. A 23rd woman joining the civil suits. Then last night, with what you said, that he's already offered to all of the women $100,000 to make this go away. So if you've done nothing wrong whatsoever, and I mean nothing, and then you offer $2.2 million to people who've accused you of doing something wrong, does that lead to public opinion then thinking that you've done nothing wrong? No, it does not. It leads to public opinion thinking that, yes, we just want to make this go away and go on with the career, and probably that was the smart thing for him to do, to make that offer. But, it's hard to make an offer like that when you are absolutely, totally without any fault. And that is the thing. This is not going away, and it's going to continue to be a black eye and a black cloud over the Cleveland Browns until all of these civil cases are adjudicated and until he finishes serving whatever sanction the league hands down.
And Watson would say that the money was offered for one reason only, so he could get the trade that he wanted, so he could try to play football, even though the Dolphins were under the impression, I've heard multiple times, that it was going to be a 6-game suspension of Deshaun Watson if he settled those cases. But, in hindsight, if he'd have been traded last year to the Dolphins, he wouldn't have gotten a $230 million fully guaranteed contract on the way through the door. He actually has made more money by waiting. Not that the problem is any better for him, because I think the sooner this all goes away, the better off he's going to be. And I've said from March of 2021, and I said it in March of 2022 when he was traded, these cases need to be resolved. You need to find a way to let the individuals believe they've gotten their justice. And this is the way the civil justice system works. It is a transaction. It is a payment of money that compensates someone for whatever it was that they endured that they shouldn't have had to endure, that they believe that they endured, whether you agree with it or not. That's how you make it right. He should have made it right out of the gates. He should have made it right after he was traded to the Browns, and now this continues to linger to the point where Browns fans get dragged into it. And some Browns fans don't like the fact that he's on the team. Other Browns fans are caught up in this tribalism. They're going to shout fake news. They were shouting old news last night. That was their reaction to this. This is old news. First of all, no, it's not. And second of all, is that the best you got? Is that really the best you got? You're going to try to shout me down because you think it's old news when it's not old news. But, hey, that's what fans do. They got thrust into this because Watson didn't settle the cases before he became a member of the Browns. And now, Peter, he is in full-fledged, full-blown, I'm going to fight these mode. And let me just tell everybody how this works. Here's how this is going to work. Because I handled civil cases for 20 years, almost. Each one of these cases is going to go to trial. And in each one of these cases, the plaintiff is going to get on the witness stand, and the plaintiff is going to tell her story about what Deshaun Watson did. And Deshaun Watson is going to get on the witness stand, and he's going to deny it. And there's going to be other evidence that may or may not get in, depending upon the rules of evidence and the arguments made by the parties about the other claims being made against Deshaun Watson or other things that he has done, other things that he has said that would tend to maybe push the needle a little bit more toward the plaintiff in each given case. There'll be many hearings where there are fights over what can and can't be used from other cases in each of these individual cases as they go to trial. But 23 of them, soon to be 24, with 23, soon to be 24 different juries. And I know how these cases go. Look, we get an idea of how the legal system is based on TV and movies. Every one of these cases is a coin flip at best for Deshaun Watson. Good luck flipping a coin 23 times and having it come up your way every time. Oh, either way, I doubt that he loses every one of these, but I would not bet that he's going to win every one of them 23 times. And how long is it going to take to process 23 trials, Peter? This is going to be hanging over the Browns all of this year, all of next year, and into 2024. And what the hell does the NFL even begin to do about this? So, I know look, he's got every right to defend himself, but there's an intersection between defending yourself and moving forward with your life. And when you've got 23, soon to be 24 of these cases, all of which are going to be tried separately, that are hanging over your life, and 6 months of the year is out of the picture for any of these trials to happen because you're playing football, or at least you think you're playing football. That'd be the best thing. Hey, Peter, the best thing for him, now that I just kind of thought of this, just suspend him for the whole year and let him focus on these cases and just get these damn cases behind him. Just try the cases during football. It's probably too late to make that happen, but just sit out the whole year and between now and next year at this time, focus exclusively on getting these 23 cases behind you. Whether you try them, settle them, whatever, that should be the full focus at this point, is making these end.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.